if you want to uncover wrongdoing in an efficient manner, you have to cooperate with people in other countries because crime and corruption is not a local issue. It's a global issue. And organized crime operates across many frontiers. Corrupt politicians don't keep their money in the country where they're from. They keep their money abroad in wealthy countries. You know, they buy property there. They buy all sorts of assets. So, and I realized, I have to become a cross-border investigative reporter in order to be able to tell the story of what's going on. I also realized the importance of investigative reporting, especially in the new environment with the internet, with the advent of the internet, with the advent of technology, of new technologies. I realized that we're not just telling stories at this point in time. I mean, we're not just retelling someone else's story. We can create stories. We can see stories where others cannot see them. Let's take, for instance, law enforcement. Law enforcement is usually national. It's a national business. And they might be investigating very well inside the borders of a country. But most high-level crime and corruption is across borders, happens across many frontiers. So for national law enforcement, it's much harder to investigate. While for journalists, it's easy business. You set up a network, you use the proper technical tools, and you just go about investigating organized crime and corruption. And in the process, what you can do is not only expose, not only tell the story after the wrongdoing has happened, but actually you can prevent crime from happening. Because crime is a commodity in the end. There's a trading in crime. Criminal models are applied today in Brazil, and then they go from Brazil to Peru, for instance, and from Peru they move to Colombia. Criminals apply the same schemes in many parts of the world. So if you're working across a network with other investigative reporters in these other countries, you're actually able to expose the crime before it's actually done in the new geography. So that is of big value. So again, law enforcement can only investigate when after the wrongdoing has happened. We as journalists can be pre-crime, can prevent crime from happening, and I think that's much more valuable for the society. What are the limitations? I mean, there is a lot of opportunity right now, with the internet, with search engines, with databases. But yes, we indeed have limitations. And that is, funding is one issue. Especially when you report across borders and you expose crime across borders, you don't quite have an audience for this story. I mean, you have audience for the national angle of the story, but there's not yet like a global audience for it. So that's one of the problems, and that makes the product kind of hard to sell. So it has a lot of value for the society, but at the same time it's hard to sell it and hard to make money out of it to support yourself and to support the network and to perform more investigative reporting. This is why most investigative reporting, most thorough and efficient investigative reporting is done now with grants from foundations, from NGOs, from businesses sometimes, clean businesses, let's say, and so on. So it's quite hard to connect to a public that would buy your products. So this is one of the problems, that we're facing. Then it's the distribution of access to internet, that is very, it's not consistent across the world. In some places people don't have access to internet, don't have access to databases, they don't have money to access these databases. So it comes down to the infrastructure, to the infrastructure that allows us to communicate, to exchange information, which goes back to the money. Some of these places, are very poor. Some of these journalists are very poor, and they don't get enough support from foundations, that can actually back this type of work, that can help us do a better job. Donors should definitely support investigative reporting, because this is a great service. It's a public service to the society, especially cross-border investigative reporting. Nobody else does it. Law enforcement is not able to perform at the same level as a network of investigative reporters. So if these groups of journalists, if these networks are not financed, the people is going to be deprived of very valuable information, and they will be victims to crime without even knowing what hit them. You can always do more. You can always do more, with proper resources, with creativity, with a good team. One of the problems we're also facing, it's the lack of skilled people in this area, in investigating organized crime and corruption. It's quite hard to form new people, to meet new people that have the same interest, But when you find them and when they become part of the network, that becomes amazing. That can make a difference. So a few people can make a huge difference if they have the right skills and if they have the goodwill to work in this area and to realize that this is not an 8 to 4 job, but it's actually dedication that you need to put in it, and to actually do something good for the society.